From overnight fame to heartbreaking tragedy and relentless controversy, Duane Dog Chapman was once a name every household recognized. With his signature leather vest, long blonde hair, and relentless pursuit of justice, he became the unlikely face of reality television. But fame has a way of unraveling even the toughest bounty hunter. What really happened to Dog the Bounty Hunter? Why did he disappear from the spotlight after dominating it for years? This is the untold story, full of heartbreak, scandal, and revelations few ever saw coming. Before cameras followed his every move and fans screamed his name, Duane Chapman was far from a hero. Born in Denver, Colorado in 1953, his early life was anything but glamorous. Raised in a turbulent household, Dog got into trouble at a young age, but it wasn't teenage rebellion. It was the kind of trouble that lands you behind bars. At just 23 years old, Dog was convicted of first-degree murder. Though he didn't pull the trigger, he was at the scene of the crime, and the court wasn't lenient. He spent 18 months in a Texas prison, but oddly enough, that sentence would become the turning point in his life. Behind bars, he had a realization, a transformation. It was where he discovered the power of redemption, of second chances. And when he got out, he didn't waste time. Instead of slipping back into old habits, Dog became a bounty hunter, a profession that allowed him to confront criminals while trying to offer them a chance at reform. Ironically, the man who once sat behind bars made a living catching others who ran from justice. And it didn't take long before his rugged style and real-world experience set him apart. Dog Chapman's rise to television stardom was anything but conventional. At a time when reality TV was saturated with celebrity gossip and glamorous lifestyles, Dog brought something raw, gritty, and undeniably real. He wasn't rich, he wasn't polished, and he didn't pretend to be. That's exactly what made him magnetic. The takedown of Andrew Luster in 2003 didn't just showcase Dog's skills as a bounty hunter, it gave the public a taste of the intensity he brought to every manhunt. The fact that he captured a wealthy fugitive who had evaded authorities gave Dog an edge, a sense of justice outside the system. He wasn't law enforcement, yet he was more effective than them in this high-profile case. The media couldn't resist the narrative, and neither could TV executives. That same year, networks began circling. When A&E gave the green light to Dog the Bounty Hunter, they didn't expect what came next. Viewers didn't just watch, they devoured it. The show wasn't just about catching criminals, it was about redemption. It was about family. It was about second chances. For many, it felt less like a crime show and more like a window into a broken but deeply loyal family trying to do the right thing, no matter how messy it got. Dog's persona was unlike anything else on TV. He was part biker, part preacher, part street philosopher. He'd chase a fugitive down with all the force and adrenaline of a seasoned hunter. And then moments later, you'd see him placing a gentle hand on that same person's shoulder, urging them to change their life, pray, and make amends. That duality made Dog unforgettable. He wasn't just chasing criminals. He was chasing lost souls. His family, especially Beth, was front and center. She wasn't a background character. She was a co-star, a powerhouse, and the emotional anchor of the show. Beth's commanding presence, razor-sharp instincts, and unapologetic style made her a fan favorite. Together, they made bounty hunting look like a family business, though viewers quickly saw the emotional cost behind the scenes. Every episode featured chaos, last-minute tips, frantic car chases, high-risk confrontations, but it also featured prayer circles, moral lessons, and genuine tears. The show was addicting because it felt like life, unpredictable, messy, sometimes tragic, but always human. As the show's ratings soared, so did Dog's profile. He went from being a niche figure in Hawaii to a global TV phenomenon. He appeared on talk shows, late-night interviews, and red carpets. The once convicted felon was now an American folk hero, a walking contradiction that viewers couldn't get enough of. He even released a book, You Can Run, But You Can't Hide, which became a New York Times bestseller. That wasn't just a TV star move, it was a redemption arc in print. But fame doesn't elevate without consequence, it exposes. As his name grew, so did the media's appetite for everything Dog. Tabloids pounced on personal details. They ran stories about his children, his ex-wives, his criminal past, and financial troubles. Paparazzi waited outside courtrooms and followed him through airports. Every moment of his life became fair game, and it started to wear him down. What viewers didn't see behind the scenes was a man struggling to keep his family together under the microscope. Fame didn't just bring money, it brought stress. Fights that once stayed within the family now exploded publicly. Dog's kids began arguing online, giving interviews that revealed rifts viewers never imagined. Some even accused Dog of being more invested in the image of family than the actual people in it. There was also the relentless pressure to keep the show exciting. Producers wanted drama, faster pacing, more confrontation, but real life doesn't always follow a script. Sometimes a fugitive didn't show. Sometimes a stakeout lasted days. Dog began pushing harder. He took more risks. He worked longer hours. And the toll became obvious. Beth later admitted in interviews that their schedule was unsustainable. They were filming constantly, traveling, non-stop, and handling the emotional strain of family drama, all while trying to live in front of the world. And Dog, for all his toughness, was starting to crack. Behind the scenes, there were whispers. Crew members mentioned Dog's temper. Friends said he was exhausted and paranoid. He started losing weight. He developed high blood pressure. The once charismatic bounty hunter seemed to be burning out under the spotlight he had worked so hard to earn. And yet, he kept going. Because for Dog, fame wasn't about ego. It was about legacy. He knew the show gave people hope. He knew fans saw themselves in his struggle. And above all, he knew that without the show, he might fall back into the very darkness he'd spent decades escaping. But eventually, that fire couldn't burn forever. Fame had made Dog a legend, but it was also starting to eat him alive. And as the cracks widened, so did the cost. Dog was known for preaching family values, but his personal life was filled with conflict. With 12 children from multiple relationships, the Chapmans were a blended family with plenty of unresolved tension. Fights spilled into the public eye. Estranged children accused him of neglect, and family feuds often became headline material. But nothing hit harder than the loss of his daughter, Barbara Katie Chapman. In 2006, just one day before his wedding to longtime partner Beth Smith, Barbara died in a car accident. She was only 23. The loss devastated Dog, who pushed forward with the wedding, but later admitted he was shattered inside. That tragedy marked the beginning of a darker, more vulnerable side of Dog the public hadn't seen before. Family chaos continued as lawsuits, custody battles, and online smear campaigns plagued his reputation. While he portrayed strength on TV behind closed doors, Dog was grappling with heartbreak and loss that never fully healed. Beth Chapman wasn't just Dog's wife. She was his partner in everything. Fans adored her tough love attitude and fierce loyalty. Together, they were reality TV royalty. Their on-screen chemistry was undeniable, and their love story, though rocky at times, captured the hearts of millions. In 2017, tragedy struck again. Beth was diagnosed with stage 2 throat cancer. It was a gut punch for the family. Cameras continued rolling during Beth's treatment, capturing raw, emotional moments that made even the most stoic viewers tear up. But in 2019, after a long and public battle, Beth passed away. Dog was inconsolable. In interviews, he often broke down, saying he felt like he lost part of himself. Fans watched as the once unstoppable bounty hunter was brought to his knees by grief. He admitted he couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, and didn't know how to live without her. And the world mourned with him. Dog's road wasn't just rocky. It was littered with scandals that nearly ended his career. The most explosive came in 2007, when a private phone call between Dog and his son was leaked to the press. In it, Dog used racial slurs, and the backlash was immediate. A&E pulled his show from the air. Advertisers dropped him, and the public turned on him almost overnight. He apologized publicly, stating he wasn't racist and that the call was taken out of context. But the damage was done. His image as a reformed man of God and justice was deeply tarnished. Legal troubles followed. He faced multiple lawsuits, including one filed by a suspect who claimed Dog assaulted him during an arrest. There were custody, battles with his own children, and accusations of exploitation. The once beloved figure had become controversial, divisive, and unpredictable. By this point, Dog the bounty hunter was no longer just a man, he was a brand. But behind the brand, the man was unraveling. What began as a second chance at redemption was now a public implosion happening in slow motion. The very thing that had elevated him, his family, his fame, his intensity, was now turning against him in ways he never saw coming. Dog's legal troubles didn't disappear after he became a household name. In fact, they only got worse. First, there was the fallout from the Andrew Luster capture. Even though Dog was hailed as a hero in the media for nabbing one of America's most wanted men, Mexico didn't see it that way, because he had carried out the bounty hunting operation on Mexican soil, where bounty hunting is illegal. He found himself slapped with international arrest warrants. In 2006, Dog, his son Leland, and associate Tim Chapman were arrested by U.S. Marshals on behalf of the Mexican government. The arrest shocked fans. Was the man who took down a dangerous predator now about to be extradited and prosecuted as a criminal himself? The legal battle dragged on for months, with the Chapmans facing the possibility of serious jail time. Dog's fame became a double-edged sword. While it drew public support, it also meant everything was under the microscope. Eventually, the Mexican government dropped the charges, but the damage was done. Dog had now been arrested in 2 countries. Something few public figures can say without irony, and that wasn't the end of it. Over the years, financial issues started surfacing. Tax documents revealed Dog and Beth owed hundreds of thousands in unpaid taxes. Their lavish lifestyle, combined with the costs of maintaining a brand and a bounty hunting business, became difficult to sustain. Meanwhile, legal fees from ongoing lawsuits, custody battles, and business disputes piled up. But perhaps the most devastating battles weren't fought in court. they were fought at home. Family was always central to Dog's image. Fans saw a tight-knit, loyal crew bound by blood and purpose. But behind closed doors, things were unraveling fast. The Chapman family became fractured, publicly and painfully. Dog's relationships with his children were strained to the breaking point. After Beth's death, Dog's behavior raised red flags for some of his kids. There were accusations that he had moved on too quickly, particularly when he got engaged to Francie Frayne just months after Beth's passing. His daughter Cecily and stepdaughter Bonnie voiced their disapproval, and things got ugly. The feud spilled onto social media, with Bonnie accusing Dog of racism, homophobia, and betraying the values he once claimed to uphold. Dog denied the accusations vehemently, but the damage was already done. The narrative of the loving father and protector began to shift. To some, it looked like the man who had preached family unity on television was now alienated from his own children. Interviews only fanned the flames. When pressed about the accusations, Dog gave erratic responses. In one interview, he bizarrely claimed to have a pass to use a racial slur because he had once spent time in prison with African-American inmates. The comment was widely condemned, further tarnishing his image. Meanwhile, more lawsuits piled on. In 2021, Dog was sued by a former cast member for breach of contract, and rumors of unpaid wages circulated. Behind the scenes, the bounty hunting business was struggling. Without Beth's guidance and charisma, Dog's operations lacked the same cohesion. Longtime team members left. New ones didn't stick. The empire was crumbling. The Chapman brand, once synonymous with loyalty and redemption, now became tangled in headlines about betrayal, estrangement, and scandal. The man who once chased fugitives through alleyways now found himself running from his own past. Not just the distant past, the felonies and biker gangs, but the more recent history he had helped create. A history filled with broken relationships, legal threats, and a rapidly fading spotlight. Even attempts at revival failed to gain traction. Spin-off shows like Dog's Most Wanted debuted to mild fanfare, but couldn't recapture the lightning in a bottle magic of the original series. Audiences had changed, the industry had changed, and Dog himself had changed too. There was something haunted in his later appearances. He looked thinner, his voice had a raspier edge. His eyes, once blazing with the fire of pursuit, now seemed clouded with grief, loss, and weariness. But perhaps the cruelest twist was this. The family he fought so hard to protect, on screen and off, was now at the center of his downfall. Dog had always said that bounty hunting was a way to give people a second chance, but he wasn't sure he'd get one this time. And as the years wore on, the question became, could Dog the bounty hunter ever outrun the ghosts of his past, even if he was the one who let them in? Barely a year after Beth's passing, Dog began a new romance with Francie Frayne, a Colorado rancher who had also lost her spouse. Their connection was fast and intense. They got engaged in 2020, and fans were blindsided. Some viewed the relationship as healing, others saw it as betrayal. Several of Dog's children publicly spoke out, claiming the relationship disrespected Beth's memory. Drama exploded across tabloids and social media. Family members were excluded from the wedding, and private texts were leaked. Dog, meanwhile, stood by Francie, saying she saved his life. Their wedding in 2021 was a media spectacle, full of glamour, tears, and tension. But even as he smiled for cameras, cracks in the family remained painfully visible. In recent years, Dog the Bounty Hunter has all but vanished from the headlines. No major TV shows, no massive press tours, just sporadic appearances and cryptic social media posts. Rumors have circulated. Some say he's struggling financially. Others whisper about declining health. Dog himself has admitted to health scares, including high blood pressure and stress-induced episodes, but he's remained vague about his current situation. What's clear is that the bounty hunter who once chased criminals across states is now battling ghosts of a different kind: loss, regret, and a public that's both tired and curious. He's not actively filming. His personal life is quieter, but there's always a lingering feeling that Dog's not done yet. Maybe he's regrouping, maybe he's finally retiring, or maybe, just maybe, the next chapter is being written off camera. Dog the Bounty Hunter lived a life most wouldn't survive: crime, redemption, fame, family tragedy, and public disgrace. He inspired millions, disappointed many, and kept the world watching. But behind the leather vest and sunglasses was a deeply flawed man trying to make peace with a past that never quite stayed buried. He's not the same Dog who burst onto our screens in the 2000s. He's older, more broken, and perhaps more honest. The world moved on, but the legend of Dog the Bounty Hunter remains, a complicated story of redemption, heartbreak, and the cost of being America's favorite outlaw. And maybe that's the real story. Not about what he caught, but what he lost along the way.